I can honestly say, when I went to public school, it was a minimal amount of Black history taught. Most of the Black history that I learned from checking books out of the library or just buying books on Black history and reading them. And that's really how I got most of my education. You know, it was self-education. One thing that many of our people don't know is Memorial Day was started by slaves. Our ancestors started Memorial Day. The first Memorial Day, ladies and gentlemen, occurred May 1st, 1865. And we're going to get into this article from the Post and Courier. And you can also Google and find this coming up. In Time magazine, I believe, did one article, Huffington Post. It's a variety of different news outlets that put this article out years ago. Now, in the picture, what you're looking at is Charleston, South Carolina, and this is the graveyard of Union soldiers that are buried there. And it was the slaves that buried these Union soldiers. The first Memorial Day. And this photo was taken April 1865. Charleston was in ruins. The peninsula was nearly deserted, the fine houses empty, the streets littered with debris of fighting and the ash of fire that had burned out weeks before. The Southern gentility was long gone. Their cause lost. Remember, they lost the war. They did not win, and they've been sore ever since. In the weeks after the Civil War ended, it was, some said, a city of the dead. On a Monday morning that spring, nearly 10,000 former slaves marched onto the grounds of the old Washington race course, where wealthy Charleston planters and socialites had gathered in old times. During the final year of the war, the track had been turned into a prison camp. Hundreds of Union soldiers died there. For 2 weeks in April, former slaves had worked to bury the soldiers. Now they would give them a proper funeral. The procession began 9 a.m. with 2,800 Black school children marched by their grave, softly singing John Brown's Body. Soon, their voices would give way to the sermons of preachers, then prayer, and later picnics. It was May 1st, 1865, but they called it Decoration Day. On that day, former Charleston slaves started a tradition that would come to be known as Memorial Day. For years, the ceremony was largely forgotten. It had been mentioned in some history books, including Robert Rosen's Confederate Charleston. But the story gained national attention when David W. Blight, a professor of American history at Yale, took interest. He discovered a mention of the first Decoration Day in the uncatalogued writings of a Union soldier at a Harvard University library. He contacted the Avery Research Center in Charleston, which helped him find the first newspaper account of the event. An article about the martyrs of the race course had appeared in the Charleston Daily Courier the day after the ceremony. Blythe was intrigued and did more research. He published an account of the day in his book, Race and Reunion. Soon, he gave lectures on the event around the country. What's interesting to me is how the memory of this got lost, Blight said. It is in effect the first Memorial Day, and it was primarily led by former slaves in Charleston. While talking about the Decoration Day event on National Public Radio, Blight caught the attention of Judith Hines, a member of the Charleston Horticultural Society. She was amazed to hear a story about her hometown that she did not know. I grew up in Charleston and I never learned about the Union prison camp, Hines said. These former slaves decided the people who died for their emancipation should be honored. Hines eventually wrote a history of Hampton Park, the site of the former racecourse, as part of the Society's Layers of the Landscape series, and included the story. Since then, she has advocated public recognition of the event. It is a story she told that needs to be told. And I agree with that, ladies and gentlemen. This was started by our people, and it should have been known by us all along. But remember, we live in this society where information is withheld on purpose to just make you believe you've done nothing, you've made no contribution, you were nothing but a slave. And we know these things aren't true. As we start digging in history, we know these things are not true. But please tell me what you think. I'm going to leave the link to this article in the description box, ladies and gentlemen, and you can come out and look at it as you please. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, share the video, like the video, and enjoy the video. Look, there is nothing wrong with you wanting to celebrate something that was created by our ancestors. So, use your own discretion. I know many of us don't do holidays, but those other holidays are different. We know they have absolutely nothing to do with us, but this one holiday does. Until I come back with my next video, peace, family.